Sometimes I used to be perplexed when I would see like these live streams and they would be like hours on end or whatever. But I realized what those streamers were doing. They're like, okay, there's multiple topics to tackle and I just got time. So I'm just going to do this hours long live stream. Um, but I just have too many other things to do in between these. But I was having my settle down moment again, and I was catching this post that Anton Daniels, and honestly, I just caught on to Anton Daniels um, probably a couple of months ago. One of my clients actually watched Anton Daniels, and and I was just kind of catching up on some of the stuff they said. I'm in financial services, so I'm always curious to see how other Black people are looking at things and talking about things. And so I would hear certain things, and I would hear him say certain like conservative Republican talking points, but it wouldn't be like hardcore. So I wasn't sure if he was like one of those Republican blackface ops, one of those grifters, or if he was just a genuine guy who had some, sound opinions. But, as I was kind of going through some of this content, I ran across this dialogue he had. And he said, y'all not worthy of marriage. And he says, Black women today are used good, and they shouldn't wear white. And automatically I saw this title as being problematic because here you have this Black man, and he's making this broad straight statement about Black women not being worthy of marriage because essentially we're not virgins. um, and honestly, I don't really know a lot of people these days in modern America, and it's not about remixing America. It's just about the fact that generations have definitely changed since the 1950s, where you didn't want to even get caught leaving the guy's house, or you would be a whore in the neighborhood, right? Like, times are not like that. And I don't understand why people want to conflate these times with those times. We're never going back to those times. It's just so sad how some people can't let go of old America. Like, this is Sodom and Gomorrah, baby. Like, we are here to stay. And I'm not saying that to brag or anything like that about the demoralization of this nation, but this nation has been demoralized. So for some of these old school conservatives to just expect for modern America to be like it was in their day it's just really unreasonable. And I understand that you may have a hard time with that, but it is. So most people today, they're not marrying virgins unless they are super duper religious people. And even when it comes to super duper religious people, they are not, even as virgin as some of them would claim, right? Having control of one's sexual urges and desires these days, you know what I mean, is increasingly difficult when you have music that promotes it, TV that promotes it. You're talking about every aspect of, life that GOPers, these old school conservative people, want to have right now. I mean, that's old. Like, Lucy and Desi weren't even sleeping in the same bed, and they were like husband and wife. Like, if you look at all of those old school TV shows versus new school TV shows, right? You're gonna see a broad contrast, because back then, they were more conscious of promoting things that were perceived as being hypersexualized. That's why when you, like I said, when you look at I Love Lucy, you see, Desi had his little twin bed, Lucy had her little twin bed, or however big, but they were in separate beds. You really didn't see a lot of couples on TV, intermingle like they would like in real life, right? And that was because the fabric of society, there was more morals, there were more scruples, right? I mean, my mom was telling me about the time when what was it, Gone with the Wind. There was a line in there where the guy was like, frankly, my dear, I really don't give a damn. And because he said damn, she was like, he said damn, and that was like a he cursed on TV. It was like, but that was how society was back then, right? And it was so funny because even when you listen to that Christmas song, they tried to ban the song Baby It's Cold Outside, right? But if you listen to the lyrics of that song, she's telling him, I got to go home because I don't really want to be seen leaving your house, right? Because back in the day, that was not seen as something that women should do, right? Fast forward 50s, 60s, 70s, decades are passing by in America. And what's happening to America culture and society? It is changing. And what's happening to those morals? They're loosening. More and more, they are loosening, right? With the music, with the TV, all of that stuff, morals are loosening. You look at how women dress back in the 50s and 60s, and you look at how dress now, it's night and day, because the standards of what was acceptable back then, it's a lot more broader now, right? Now women can walk around half butt naked and it's okay. It's acceptable, and you shouldn't judge them as anything but a woman just trying to be comfortable in her skin. So when people really start conflating these, women shouldn't wear white wedding dresses because white, that's a symbol of you're a virgin and you're pure. And when, people make statements that Black women are used goods and that we are not worthy of marriage because we're not virgins, I just want to know, like, do they think that virginity or lack of virginity is a Black thing, Anton Daniels? Like, I don't understand how some of these people can even fix their lips to say certain things, but I understand you have a whole audience of people that you're trying to placate to, right? Because you're trying to get them conservative coins, right? And, for some of these conservative people, nothing will inspire them to give up the coins like a Black person talking about other Black people. They love it. They absolutely love it. Just ask Candace Owens and all these other buck dancers. But Anton Daniels, he's trying to make a point, I guess, in this little Zoom call or group chat or whatever with all these Black people that basically, Black women we're used goods, right? Like, you shouldn't marry us because, like, we're not virgins. And apparently that is a plight that seems to only be of Black women. All the other races of women are virgins and marriage material. It's just really, to me, you start listening to some of these Black faces and it's like, I knew the app was going to come out. I don't trust some of these people. And I really, one of the things, I was listening to Anton Daniels, actually last week, was it? And he was talking about hard work. He was talking about the usual suspect talking point of hard work. And I don't know how old Anton Daniels is. I don't know if he's married. I don't know if he has children, right? But I think, a lot of people, they're like, oh, you don't have to be struggling. You got to work hard. You got to do this. You got to do that. He goes, I don't know what a 40-hour work week look like. I don't know what this, I don't know that. And here's the thing. I do, when I was in field, I mean, honestly, sometimes my clock did not stop until like 8 o'clock, right? If you really want to be successful in something, you definitely have to put forth the effort. But I don't believe that success should come at the price of your sanity and your overall health, right? If you are that hungry for something, like, I personally think, but this is just me, you are out of balance if you think like that's going to give you pure meaning in life. I've met a lot of high net worth people, men especially. They are miserable. And people be surprised how some of these high net worth non-Black men how they have zero problems absorbing Black women and their kids. Why? Because they literally worked their whole lives. That was their priority. And now they're at the point where they can't have kids. So they're just like, I'll just absorb these little tax breaks, because that's what absorbing a Black woman and their kids really are. You get some tax benefits there. And the white guys have zero problem with it, right? So when I hear some of our Black men get on a platform and talk about how Black women are not worthy and that we're used goods, and they're blanketing Black women and narrating Black women in this manner that just basically shuts us out of any opportunity for happiness. When I hear a Black man doing that, right? This is where I find justice, clapping for that Black woman who that white man took her and her kids and made them happy. And he got a tax break in the process. So, that's just me. I find that there are these Black conservative type of people, they are double talking demons, and they really speak, to demean Black people. They really do. Anton Daniels started his platform as a married man complaining about single women instead of a platform about marriage. There you go. There you go. And I'm going to tell you this. I look at people like this. I profile people certain ways, right? Because certain people are running on certain ambitions because they lack certain social values, okay? I say that there's 5 social values, whether people are conscious of them or not. Beauty, right? Beauty. If you are a beautiful person, and you can actually get somewhere in life. This is why you have your Fresh and Fit and your guys in the manosphere. They hate beautiful women because they know that beautiful women can find success, money, and wealth just based off of their beauty, right? But if you don't have beauty, you have to have intelligence, right? Intelligent people are very valuable in society, right? And I do believe that Anton Daniels has some level of intelligence, right? But if you don't have beauty and intelligence, you have to have ingenuity, meaning that you need to be able to engineer something. You need to be able to make something. You have to be an Elon Musk, who's not a looker, right? But he has the intelligence and the ingenuity, so therefore he will always get women, right? If you don't have beauty, right? If you don't have intelligence, if you don't have ingenuity, you have to have agility. That means you have to be really good at sports. Like, that's where your sports people in society come in. A lot of them aren't the sharpest tools in the shed. Some of them aren't lookers, right? Some of them can't create a paper plane, right? But they know how to play sports. And that's where they find their value in society, right? And if you don't have those things, you have to have a dynamic personality. This is where comics come into society, right? Because if you ugly as hell, dumb as hell, you can't create anything, you can't play any sports, you gotta be funny. You just gotta be funny, right? I look at people like Anton Daniels. He's gonna be working hard for money and trying to make other Black people who don't want to work as hard and actually have some kind of quality of life, you know what I mean? And Bucky dance for conservatives, like he's going to make them always feel inferior, right? Because he's running on some social values. He's lacking some very fundamental social values, in my opinion. Black men putting down our sisters are mad because they couldn't get the sisters. I look at things like that too. Anton Daniels is a person that he's always going to need money. He's always going to need money because his intelligence really isn't going to be enough to secure the type of women that he may want, right? And this is where a lot of these men are really dealing with when they have really negative things to say about Black women. A lot of times it's because they've been rejected by a lot of Black women, not because they were broke, just because they probably weren't their idea of attractive. Some of these dudes have high standards and high ideas of themselves, and they think that they can just be able to pull any old baddie because they're them. right? And it's like, that's why they work so hard. They slave for money because they want to be able to have this idea, this measurement, right? That, without all of that hard work, they'd be just a regular insecure beta person. Like, but he's talking about Black women shouldn't wear white, and that we're used goods in this blog. And everybody else is in this blog is listening to him like, what are you talking about? Nobody should get married. Let me see.
Hold on. We talk.
Why are women? What is the standard?
When I was in high school and
no. We're not talking about. We not.
I keep going on. Hang on for 1 second. He's saying, what is the standard for a woman being desirable back in the day? And basically, he's claiming that it's virginity. So he's saying that if you are not a virgin, if you're a Black woman, you're not a virgin, you are used good and you shouldn't wear marriage. And he said you're not worthy of marriage,
That's what I'm saying. You ain't. Are we gonna have to find a young girl?
This is all we gotta say.
Exactly.
None of y'all are worthy of marriage. That's all we gotta say.
So nobody.
We don't have to sugarcoat it. We don't have to modify it. We don't have to make it anything different than what it is. Y'all can remix it. Y'all can add value to it. You can throw it away. You can get it back.
And guess what?
You can say that one man's trash is another man's treasure. This is what it comes down to. This is what it comes down to. Throw the whole culture away. Throw it all away. Start over. None of y'all are worthy. You don't have the mindset. You don't have the character. You don't have the purity. You don't have the spirit. You don't have the understanding that comes along with what marriage is supposed to be. Throw it away. Start all over and try to fix the people that's coming after y'all, because none of y'all are worthy of it, considering what it is that y'all communicate.
So what's up? Okay, I know what you're about to say. Thank you. I'm telling you, my kids are terrorists. This is why I do not negotiate with them, because they're going to find a way to terrorize something. But he's saying that you're right. They think younger women are looking for an older man with no money and will financially support them 50-50. No, not at all. But, it's interesting, though, because he's saying that because Black women are so damaged that we need to abandon all hopes and dreams of, finding happiness, being with somebody, and even aspiring to be married. And this is coming from some guy who claims that he consequently, he says, follow God, not culture. But he's talking on anti-God talking points. You're talking on anti-God talking points, because like what you're really saying is that like, just be miserable, right? You're not worthy. There's no reason for you to try, right? Because of all these things. And he's saying, and don't even remix it. Like, don't say that what you don't want another man will have. Like, no, just dismiss all of that and just accept that you're not worthy and just, exist in your unworthiness and be alone. This is how some of these Black men have the audacity to talk to Black women, but then will fix their energy and their lips to have a problem when Black women go to non-Black men. Like, seriously, calling them bed wenches and all this stuff. It's like, you Negroes don't want us. Some of you guys are out here literally telling Black women that we're not worthy. You don't have the spirit. And it's like, bro, you are talking about follow God, not culture. And you're literally blanketing all Black women, telling all Black women that universally we all have the same character, intelligence, and spirit, right? And because we are universally the same, and this is why I can't stand when people talk about people and cultures in very blanketed, generalized ways, because there's always exceptions to any cultural group. Like, just like people who will say Black America isn't a monolith, Black women aren't monoliths. Like, I really don't understand, how Black men can just dog their women. Some of these men, not all Black men, let me stop because I'm generalizing, but you have a lot of Black men these days outright dogging Black women, and then have the audacity to tell Black women when they pursue other men outside of Black men, you know, you demonize them then. So you got this man, literally, the title of this blog is "Y'all Not Worthy of Marriage." Anton says Black women today are used goods. So this is what you got, Black men on the microphone communicating to the world about Black women, that were not worthy, that were used goods, right? And then some of these dudes will have a complete problem when a whole white man go and scoop up that used goods and make her happy. Ridiculous, just ridiculous to me. It's ridiculous. Like, I mean, this dude is literally talking like he's just a freaking prophet that knows what he's talking about. It's like, these people are double talking demons. They're double talking demons. You know, you go to a congregation, right? He's talking about follow God, not culture. How many people that you've seen, like, they've totally transformed their lives, right? They go to the right church, the right congregation, right? And they align with a person of God, and they get married and they find happiness with each other serving God. Like, let Anton Daniels tell it that was an unworthy union, right? These people are so judgmental. That's why I said these are double talking demons. A lot of these people are double talking demons. And I do feel like there are some Black men that outright hate Black women. They outright hate us. They hate us. And like, I don't know what the root cause of that is. I don't know what chick made you angry or what, but I do feel like there are some Black men who deeply rooted, I don't know if you just hate the womb that you came from or what, and it kind of passes down to other Black women. It's like, I think Black women, like, I don't care how much this guy is worth, like, a Black woman's going to be miserable with a guy like this. Like, this is like these are angry Black men. These are chauvinistic mindset Black men. These are not Black men of God. Because Black men of God don't even have time to have such nonsense on their lips. They be wanting to see their sisters happy, hopefully aligned with a brother that's in union with the Lord as well. You know what I mean? This dude is just talking on these white nationalist talking points. For some reason, he thinks that we live in the I Love Lucy era where everybody running around here virgins, right? And for some reason, it's just a lot of responsibility on Black women to be virgins, while Black men are running around, a lot of them, tricking in the streets. Like, they're like community penis. Like, I mean, it's safe to say that a lot of Black men, their penis is community. And this guy has the audacity to demonize Black women and expect for us to be running around virgins and telling us we're not worthy. I mean, some of our brothers, these dudes are so sexed out, they can't even perform, like in their 30s. Like, I'm talking about these dudes by their 30s, they got ED, right? They're all running around, you know, like dish rags and stuff, you know, thinking that they're that dude, but you don't even got any stamina, right? It's absurd to me. Like, I don't ever want to hear Black men like this talk about white men, Black women going to white men. Man, some dudes like this make Black women flee to white men. Like, I mean, if these are honestly, if Anton Daniels was like that type of Black guy was all Black women had, it's like, I will take my chances with Massa. I'll take my chances with Massa. For real. It's ridiculous.
Let's just be very, very clear. Nobody on this panel is worthy of marriage based off of what we communicated today. You don't settle for somebody, you find a wife. No.
I'm married. I'm married already.
You don't settle for.
So, like, here's again, and people chiming in, hold on, I got a wife. I'm married. So you assuming because you're around all these black people that they all just sitting up here meeting this narrative that you got to promote for the white folks or whatever, and they're like, hold up, Playboy, I'm married.
Food prices.
Hold on, I'm not paying for YouTube, so I got to let this commercial go by. And this is no, and that's a political ad too. No, you ain't gonna put her in my live stream. None of them. Not Trump or Camel.
You cannot define what a wife is supposed to be. It is not something to be remixed. It's not something to be changed. You can't make it something that it's not. If you cannot find a wife, then do not get married. But you cannot change the word of God. You cannot change what it is. You cannot make it to be something else. You're not going to change the definition of word. First of all, nowhere in the word of God are you going to read that you need to marry a virgin. I mean, in the link where it says to marry a virgin, right? I mean, I want to know that. Like, I know that the Bible says that fornication, adultery, these are sins against God. We know these things, right? We know that we should be walking around with purity, right? But nowhere in the Bible, nowhere in the Christian Bible, the Abrahamic faith Bible, are you going to read that you should be marrying a virgin? You're not. Because even that just even wasn't the practice in biblical times. You know, there, if you actually look at the practices of biblical, like if a husband dies, like his brother should marry the wife and take care of the wife, right? Right. So he's not picking up a virgin in that situation, right? And so nowhere in the Bible are you going to read that a requirement for marriage is that a person needs to be a virgin. You're just not. But you do read in the Bible about the standards of individuals that profess to be of God. And one of those standards is that you should not be around, fornicating, committing adultery, all of that stuff. But again, I think that people like Anton Daniels and some of these Black conservatives, they like to take these old school, ways of America and try to superimpose them on modern America. And it just doesn't work, right? You look at our cinema, you look at our music, it's completely different. What is being projected to people now and what has been projected to people, I would say in the last couple of decades, is totally different, right? Like if you ask your grandparent or whatever, and you ask them how much explicit, sex did you guys see on primetime TV? How much did you guys see back in your day when, in the age when television was on and popping or whatever as it progressed? How much of the stuff that you guys saw that we see? And they were like, no, we didn't. Like what we see on TV and what's allowed to be on primetime TV today, you know what I mean? Even the simulation of relations or whatever, that was not the standard back then. So again, you're talking about influences on our culture of people today that they didn't have. So yeah, I pray for everybody, but I feel like people like Anton Daniels, again, this is that I don't know if he's a grifter. I really don't know how to even call some of these people, because they talk on these talking points that make sense. But then they riddle them with some other, these other conservative talking points that are just outright sort of belittling to Black people. So when I see people say Black people, negative thing, right? Black women, negative thing, blanketing, I automatically think that person is a Black op, and they're trying to narrate Black women or Black people to perpetuate some ongoing stereotype about Black people. So I look at Anton Daniels as being another Candace Owens.
I look at him as being another Candace Owens. He's going to speak on talking points that non-Black people want a Black-faced person to say about Black people. And even though I'm out here in Detroit too, I've seen certain things that he's done highlighting the city, right? I can also see a glory whore, with this guy. And I do believe that people like that can be paid to say any old thing about Black people. I really do. People like this can be paid, right? And again, we're talking about Malcolm X. When he talks about these tokens and these props, right? They gotta get biscuits for saying what they say about Black people, or narrating Black people in the manner that they narrate. So this was a post that he did about 11 months ago. And obviously, male hating Black men or Black women hating Black men, they were just eating it up like popcorn, right? It's always something wrong with women. Like, men are always pointing the fingers at women. But, I feel like, there's several things that can be true at one time. I think when you're talking about this feminist movement, right? There's so many layers to why that happened. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of it is men got way too comfortable demeaning their women. And so when you get this women's empowerment movement, now you got a bunch of empowered women in society. And a lot of these men don't know how to deal with that. And it's even worse for Black men because a lot of these women are going out and getting educated in ways that they're not, so they're able to elevate their careers in a different way. And so, I think that, the confidence level that a lot of these men did not want their women to have, they have them. And and I think that the leverage that they traditionally had on women is not there. So all they got is anger and telling us that we ain't worth it or worthy and keeping us on a lower frequency. It's so funny. They love keeping watch out for these men that specialize in lowering the frequency of women or people. That's how you know you're dealing with somebody. In my opinion, in 1980s is when stuff begins to change. You think so? I think in the 70s, though, that you could really start seeing that drastic change too, because I look at some of those blaxploitation movies in the 70s and stuff like that. You saw the projections of Black people sort of shifting, from, that normal maid type of role and stuff like that to more culturally defined. But even then it looked like we were wild as hell in the 70s, for real. And I think just when I used to look at old movies, right? They used to go in with a kiss and then they would fade into another scene where they're in each other's arm, where you kind of got the idea that something happened, but they never even showed anything that happened. Now it's they'll get to everything but penetration on the TV these days. Look at the Grammys. When Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion performed, right? No way a performance like that should have been on primetime TV. No way, right? But that's just a sign of how the times have changed and how society has become more and more demoralized. So when you have somebody like Anton Daniels saying that Black women aren't worthy to get married because we're not virgins, it's you realize that's the case for most people. Most people aren't virgins these days. Most people are not upholding some traditional idea of purity. So, it was 1975 was the beginning of the slow decline. 1980s, it became noticeable. By 1995, it was full blown. I don't know, because I guess I'm 41 years old. So I guess for me, I think 80s was very weird. It was very more androgynous, and and it was like ambiguous, like sexual, you know what I mean? Like it was very androgynous, right? Like the 70s, I wouldn't say things were very hypersexual, but it definitely wasn't on this high moral, like I can't think of any like black 60s shows, right? But it wasn't like you saw like black working families type of things. Like 70s, we saw gangsters, right? 80s, we saw some androgynous ass people. Black dudes was wearing eyeliners and dressing like bitches themselves. And then like the 90s, they decided to go back to black men and divorce all the Jerry curls and eyeliners. So, it's an interesting transition there. But in terms of the culture and what was projected to us on TV, I still you're right though. I will say like in the 80s is when you started seeing more sex on the TV. Like I'm trying to go back to some of those shows, and you did start seeing less simulations of sex and more into the actual physical acts without the nakedness and stuff. So yeah, but that's just to say that when people are expecting modern day people to uphold some sense of morality and cultural identity as people in the 50s and 60s, that's just very unreasonable to me. And it just tells me that there's some level of divorcing of reality. Now, if you're somebody that says that we need to get back to those values, I get it, right? We need to get back to the values that made people actually functional in society, that made societies function, right? We do need to get back to those values, but to expect for, that to just be an overnight reality in this in this culture of people in America today, I think it's unreasonable. And there are more than black women who are running around not virgins. So if you were to go with this argument that if you're not a virgin, you're not worthy of marriage, that means the majority of the population is not worthy of marriage. Like, is that fair to say? Because I truly believe that majority of the population are not virgins, right? Majority of the population are not upholding some biblical or traditional standard of purity. It's interesting. I was talking to a classmate of mine, and he reached out to me on Facebook, and he was trying to holler and stuff. And we just talking and stuff, and we were kind of getting on just like dating and everything like that. And, he was very, very aggressive reaching out, and I'm going to get you. I'm trying to run for Congress and you'd be the perfect person. And I'm like, no, I wouldn't, because I'm politically neutral. So no. But he was telling me that like somehow we got on the topic of him having 400 women, that he had slept with 400 women. And mind you, we're only 41 years old. I'm like, I'm trying to calculate how it's possible for somebody to sleep with that many people. And then I don't even like when people say that, like, I slept with like 30 people, I'm still trying to figure out or calculate like how that could even be possible. How could it be possible? But when a man tells me he's slept with 400 women, but then this same man can also talk about how, women aren't this and women aren't that, it's just like, you slept with 400 women, like you were in no position to talk about anybody. You need to talk about yourself and your thing, because I'm surprised the thing is still long. Like, it didn't even fall off sleeping with that many people. It's ridiculous to me. The contradictions are real. Like, I feel like when it comes to modern society, I don't care what anybody says, slutty men are just as bad as slutty women. And actually, slutty men are worse. slutty men are worse because they actually become impotent. I mean, you know, you hear these guys on the Fresh and Fit podcast saying that it's okay for a man to be promiscuous in his 20s and stuff like that. And then by his 30, I am not kidding you. I've heard several women say that they have had, you know, relationships with younger guys like in their 30s, and that these guys were impotent. Like these guys have like ED in their 30s. Like, how does that even happen? Like, you know, like, to me, I've always associated ED with something that happens to guys when they get much older. But what I realized is that some of these guys that were like in their 50s had more stamina than these guys in their 30s. And that's because the guys in their 50s actually had discipline about their body, and they weren't just sticking their little thing in everything. Whereas some of these 20s to 30-year-olds, they're just bopping around, you know, community penis all over the place. And a lot of times they're doing that so much that they're horrible. They're horrible in bed. A lot of these guys are horrible in bed. And, you know, they got the audacity to talk about somebody being a virgin. It's crazy to me. Absolutely crazy. But you guys have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Let me see what else we can. I just happened to see that Anton Daniels thing. And this was something he said 11 months ago. You know, but again, I've been paying attention to how Anton been talking lately. He's definitely on that conservative buck dance train where he has to narrate Black people. Like, these people definitely narrating Black people these days. They have to. And I do feel like sometimes that there's kind of this weird silent attack on Black people in very slick ways using rhetoric. You know what I mean? There's a reason why people say like all Black people this, or people have these generalizations of Black people, because you got a lot of Black people feeding into those generalizations. So anyways, I'm over it. Did you guys see? I didn't. Okay, so there's this girl. What is her name? Michaela Montgomery. She was the Chick-fil-A Black chick or whatever that was just, you know, doing the old biscuit mammy shuffle for Trump. And they started putting her on like all these press runs. Well, there was an exchange between Michaela, and I think she was out here in Detroit on a podcast, and
fans because you joined the military? Man, I couldn't do it.
For being let's go on to the next. Hey, but once this is signed, check.
So she got some, because she was on a break.
let me see.
That's the government to
This
pieces.
is Sub-03 696.
I hope we get in there, but I don't think they're gonna let them. I think issue.
Remember on the airport. Hold on, tone it down. Relax.
Fair enough.
Come on, you foaming at the mouth. Relax, baby. Relax. You foaming. Relax.
You know what happens with some Black people, and like I said, I'm trying to not generalize either. Some Black people, especially like Democratic Black people, they don't argue. They know that they go to insults. Like, you know that you won an argument when somebody goes to insults and ad hominem attacks to sort of attack your viewpoints. And I noticed that Democratic Black people, they go to like belittling people almost. Like, or they'll say something extreme or be very abrasive. But I wanted to get to this point that people keep showing. Michaela Montgomery, she held her own.
Washing calls, struggling. That was me. I don't know if y'all see it.
I don't know why I keep getting it when he's
But a
talking.
website
Like,
used to come up.
see, this is why I hate some of these podcasters. It's like, you got to let the people talk too. We don't, like, I was trying to get a sound clip of them talking, not you, bro. Anyways, y'all, that's all I have for you guys. I just caught that Anton Daniels thing, and I thought that was interesting. It was an interesting comment because you do have a lot of these conservative, red pill, black looking men, right? And they got nothing but smoke for black women. They have nothing but smoke for us. Their job is to narrate black women in a very universally negative way, though, and their job is just to talk about the negative things about the black community, right? And I mean, arguably, there's negative things about all communities in America to me, but these people specifically are, paid for by the Republican machine to talk about everything wrong with black people. So Anton Daniels was probably just fulfilling his token role some way with whatever Republican audience he has gained. And I just kind of look at him as another Candace Owens. So take from these people, just like you take from me what you will. But just understand some of these people are black ops. They are black ops. They are paid to just consistently narrate and generalize black people in a certain manner, so that they can uphold stereotypes and white supremacist mindsets about black people. I mean, and these are black people doing this. And again, Malcolm X, when he's talking about tokens, right, and puppets, this is what he's talking about, man. These people who blanket black people. It's like, to me, to make generalized statement that black women don't deserve to get married because they're not virgins. You don't want your sisters to be happy. You don't want your sisters to be happy. Like, that is coming from the lips of a black man that don't want his sisters to be happy. So he needs to get on the microphone and make make a blog telling black women why we are used goods and that we don't deserve to be married, right? Traitor. You're a traitor. All these, you're a traitor to your sisters, right? Like, just turning people away from marrying black women, right? It's ridiculous. I don't know how to make this thing do whatever it do, but thank y'all for tuning in. You have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Be good to each other, right? I love my black men, my smart, intelligent black men. I love my sisters, my smart, intelligent black sisters, right? And we just got to do better when it comes to talking about each other, narrating, highlighting, the black community, right? Because there's so many people that are committed to narrating black people, black women, black men, black culture in this universally negative way, right? So what I would love to see, this is a challenge to all my foundational black Americans, ADOS, freemen, however you call yourself or refer to yourself, have a family reunion. If your family still does family reunions, if your family still do get-togethers, right? Post it on X, post it on, whatever the social media platforms you use, right? And just hashtag it, this is black culture, right? And anything positive or uplifting that you see black people doing in the community, beautification projects or anything like that, post it on social media and say, this is black culture, right? Because what black people are really combating is the psychological warfare against our narrative and who we are as a people. And the best way for us to combat that is to have way more voices, on the microphone, talking about the positive things that are happening in the black community and black people being willing to highlight each other. So if you see a black person in your community, they're making strides, they're elevating other people, they're taking other people with them, highlight them, right? And use the hashtag, this is Black culture. I think the more we can promote Black elevation, and we highlight, what really makes Black culture special, right? The more people who want to try to narrate us certain ways, they're going to have a harder and harder time doing it. We got to make it very hard for these people to narrate Black people any old kind of way, right? Because we're going to be controlling the narratives. Every time they show us a sexy red, we're going to show them a successful Black female lawyer or doctor or any professional and say, this is not Black culture, this is Black culture. Anytime they want to narrate our brothers as thugs and everything like that, you show them our military men, our real estate guys, our financial advisors, our insurance agents. You show them all those and say, this is Black culture. We got to start combating these narratives against us, right? Because they're going to perpetuate ignorant things about us. They're going to use people that look like us to sort of co-sign those ideas that they want to perpetuate about us. So we got to start combating these things with our own rhetoric about our own people. And we need to get like these other groups, right? Once you have control over your narration, right? When other groups, like we got to get like the Jews, man, right? You say anything against their group, right? They got a whole Bible law. As a matter of fact, every single law for anti-Semitism, Black people we got to start small, right? Reparations may not be achievable, but what we can do is take every single law that they have created in the service of anti-Semitism, and we need to start creating anti-Blackness laws, right? Because a lot of these anti-Semitism laws really boils down to how they are being narrated, how Jewish people are being narrated, right? Black people need to have the same protections. We should be demanding the same protection because we don't want people just narrating us any kind of way. They have been doing that. And it's been very, very harmful to a lot of us in more ways than one. And harmful doesn't necessarily mean that something's going to directly hurt, you physically. It can be this rhetoric about Black women being unworthy, and this, makes it harder for them to find a mate, or makes it harder for them to be seen as somebody who's not those things when they're competing for jobs. So this rhetoric, it does impact in more ways than one. And this is why it's so important for Black people to always go to war, when it comes to the narration of Black people. And this should be our fight. This should be our fight. Like, the one thing I do respect about the Jewish community is at least they're all on code about the narration. They're all on code about how they choose to be narrated. And they all are on code with what they perceive to be harmful to them in terms of their community. Black people need to get on code like that, right? We need to get on code like that, right? And we can't allow these Black faces to be narrating us either. We gotta take them, What did Umar Johnson say? Lashings. He I think he sentenced one brother to 40 lashings. But we got these Black ops, they got to be called out and they got to be rooted out. And, if anybody's going to support them, it cannot be Black people. It cannot be Black people. When we got Black ops in the community, we cannot support them, right? We can't empower them. We cannot support the Black ops that are funded by non-Black money to narrate us any kind of way universally, right? So I don't know how many Black men actually jumped on the mic after this podcast was broadcast and say, or attacked him or anything like that for saying, hey, you shouldn't say that our women are not worthy of marriage because they're not virgins, because most of us aren't virgins, right? I don't know how many black men kind of came to black women's defense. I don't even know how many black men are bold enough to do that who are not angry at us or trying to keep us on a lower frequency. Yeah. I mean, this doesn't go for all black men, but some of our brothers, like, we really like just, I don't know, like, I feel like someone need to go to therapy just to figure out if they hate black women or not. Like, why do you hate black women? Like, why? Were you hurt by somebody? Some of these brothers' hates are just very rooted for us, and it's just a shame. It's just a shame. They dog us. They dog us. And then they are just the main ones pissed off when they see us going to other races. You dog your women, and then when other men absorb them, now you're dogging them for allowing a non-black man to absorb them. Pick a struggle is all I can say with that. Y'all have a good one. Bye.